Hello and welcome to a new video. If you are new here, my name's Kim. I vlog about all things family, lifestyle, business, small business, just a bit of everything really. This is going to be my first businessy type video of 2024. I'm going to be looking at my Etsy results from last year. So I have a small product-based business called Finest Imaginary. I sell on my own website, I sell on Etsy, I have wholesale stockists, and I also sell on Not on the High Street and a few other places. Etsy is one part of the puzzle. Last year was not a good year. I'm just going to put that out there straight away. It was not a good year on Etsy for my business. There are a few factors as to why that was. I will talk about them in this video. I'm going to compare this year's 2023's figures with the year before and with 2020, which was the year that I had a viral product. So let's jump right in. Okay, if you see me looking over this way, it's because I've got my laptop open with the screenshots of what I did last year and the 2 years that I talked about. 2023, whew, that was a year for me on Etsy. I'm glad it's done. There was something that happened in the summer which majorly affected my sales on Etsy. You may have seen it mentioned around, but my store was shut for around 6 weeks in summer through, I think it was July and August, and I finally got my store back and back open, and my kind of search engine optimization on Etsy had gone right down, obviously because the store hadn't been there. I hadn't been able to build up kind of click-throughs and purchases for about 6 weeks, which had a major effect. It had a major effect for the rest of the year, and I'm just now kind of seeing things go back to normal. So that is something to bear in mind for last year. That said, the previous few years I've seen a decline in visitors and spend, and there are a few reasons I think that happened, and I'll talk about them after we've looked at the figures. But here we go, here's my 2023 Etsy results. So as you can see, my revenue is just over 5.5 grand. That's, you know, it's decent, right? It's money, it's coming in. Considering that I work for myself and this is my full-time job, it's not great. And when you compare it to previous years, it's not great. When we look at 2020 and how my store did on there in that year, it's a quarter of what I took, approximately a quarter. And yeah, it's disappointing. I'm disappointed that I didn't get masses of results last year on Etsy. But that said, I mentioned it earlier, it's just a piece of the puzzle for me. It's a piece of my business. It's just one of the income streams that I use to generate revenue. And if I'm being honest, I don't spend a great deal of time on my Etsy store. I kind of just let it do its own thing. So let's compare that to the 2022 figures, which I'll just put up on the screen now for you to take a quick look at. So in 2022, you can see I was almost £3,000 higher. Again, I didn't do much by way of promoting Etsy. I always push traffic to my own website. I suggest you do the same. And yeah, you can see my visitors were down in 2023 compared to 2022. My order numbers were down and my conversion rate was down. So all of that obviously contributes to the drop in funds from my Etsy store last year. And now let's look at my 2020 year. Now, like I said, this was quite an anomalous year because I had a viral product. It was this patch. It sold thousands of pieces. It was a really popular design during the pandemic, and it contributed to my business doing its first six-figure year. First and only six-figure year. Since then, I have been nowhere near that. So let's look at 2020. Yeah, nearly 20,000 on Etsy. You can see kind of a bump towards Christmas. You can see a bump where I released the patch for the pandemic patch. And also that year was an anomaly for a lot of small businesses. A lot of small businesses had a boom year there because people were just shopping from home. They had nothing else to spend their money on. Yeah, so with that said, let's talk about spending money, why I think my business didn't do quite as well on Etsy in the past couple of years, and what I'm going to do for 2024 to kind of hopefully rectify that a little bit. I mean, I'll do another video and update you on that. Maybe it will be worse, maybe it will be the same, but these are the things that I'm going to implement this year. So looking at those two figures from last year and the year before, the big thing for me is the traffic, the number of visits that my Etsy got, and the majority of those visits were kind of pushed by Etsy. If you look at the Etsy app and Etsy pages, there was a huge drop between the traffic from 2022 and 2023. That is down to Etsy not pushing my products, not featuring them in featured categories, things like that. And the way that that is impacted is staying on trend. So I think last year I didn't release many products, and I especially did not work towards releasing them for trend. So obviously in 2024, my aim is to do some trend-led products, follow what Etsy is loving, using eRank and similar Etsy helpful websites, and basically just looking on Etsy itself. I'm going to look what kind of products they're featuring, and I might make some Etsy exclusive products as well that can only be purchased on Etsy. You can also see a drop in my conversion rate, so that means that a lot of people clicked through to my products but didn't buy. So I want to look at why that is. I will be investigating that a little more. I'll see which products have got the lowest conversion rates. It might be a case of me removing some of the poorly performing products to get my conversion rate up. If my conversion rate goes up, hopefully Etsy will notice that, and in the algorithm my products will start ranking higher as being highly converting products. It's something to experiment with. I do have some products on there that are just dead wood that I want to just get rid of. They can be on my website, they can be on other places that aren't kind of affected by algorithmic search engines, and we'll see what that does. Obviously for the past couple of years as well, I have not been in a position to make as many new products as I would have liked. That's because I have a 20-month-old baby, and last year was taken up wholly by him, and the year before. I've also got a 4.5-year-old, and people with young kids know how all-encompassing looking after them is. This year I feel like I've got a bit more flexibility with my work balance. I should be able to get some more design done. I should be able to get some new products created and hopefully have more new products launched on Etsy than I did in 2023. Also, as I mentioned earlier, 2023 saw my store have a shutdown of about 6 weeks. That was obviously beyond my control. If you have been around on the internet and in some Etsy forums, you might have seen why that was. There were about 500 of us that were affected by this. I can't go too much into why that is for legal reasons, but if you googled some lawsuits to do with Etsy, you would probably find that out. Suffice to say, if you are tagging your products, make sure you don't use any trademark terms. Now, these might be words that are in your everyday vernacular speech, words that you wouldn't think would be trademarked. But there are some very litigious companies out there who are searching Etsy to make some easy money, so be very, very careful. And I also just want to touch on the cost of living crisis. We all know that running a business has been incredibly hard in 2023 and 2022. People are strapped for cash, and my products especially, and I bet a lot of yours too, are very frivolous. They're not the most important things on people's minds. They have better places to spend their money. Obviously there are still people with money who will be shopping with us, but yeah, that's just part of the economy and part of life, and it's something to be weathered, and you just need to kind of come through it. I started my business in a recession and now it's going through another, so yeah, hopefully we'll survive it, we'll all survive it. I think the key is to kind of diversify, pick yourself up some new income streams to support your business alongside, and kind of look at what people can afford. That's usually in this kind of situation a small treat, a small luxury treat rather than something huge. So if there's something small that you can create that they would be more likely to purchase, then it might be time to look at that. Another thing I want to do this year is kind of look at my listings in more detail, as I mentioned, get rid of the dead wood, look at the tags, look at the descriptions, make sure that everything is belts and braces so that Etsy can show people my products when they search. Nobody knows exactly what the Etsy search is looking for, what people are looking, how it kind of ranks things, but we can make sure that our products are well described, well tagged. I might even look at putting the product videos on. That's not something I've done, but with such a downturn I feel like I need to do something. I'm also going to look at my ad spend on Etsy for 2024. Now, last year I did spend some on ads, but I probably didn't spend as much as the year before, and I think that I want to experiment a little bit more with that. Paid advertising is quite tricky, I think, on Etsy as well, because you're advertising on the site and people might find you anywhere. It's a bit of a weird one, so I think over summer, when it's the lower time for people to be spending and people aren't pushing sales as much, I'm going to look at my advertising and do some experimenting and see what works and what doesn't work. So in summary, 2023 was it for me on Etsy, and hopefully 2024 will be better. I'll be putting lots of things into practice to try and increase my traffic on Etsy. I will be adding a lot of new products. I'll be working on new products. I'll be looking at Etsy trends and kind of making some products to follow the trends. And I will be attempting to do some Etsy exclusives as well that will hopefully bring some people to Etsy. However, that said, I do always think you should push people towards your own website rather than Etsy, because you want to build your own brand and you don't want to be reliant on an external service. And I can't stress that enough. After being shut down for about 6 weeks last year, it had huge ramifications for my business. Even with the kind of low-level money that Etsy does bring into my business, it brings in enough to pay for my storage unit and my accountant, and it's little things like that that it does pay for, which, yeah, was sorely missed during those weeks off. And that's it for this video. If you also have an Etsy, how have you been finding it? Did you find last year a bit harder? Have you found anything that's worked well for your Etsy? Drop it in the comments below, I'd love to know. I'll see you next time.